Duckworth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Lam, can you speak to how the importance of our maritime highways to the freight network?
Well, again, most of our ag members are containerized shippers and not moving or navigating through our rivers. So today, I'm really just prepared to talk, if I may, about containerized exports moving by motor carrier or by rail. As I mentioned, boxcars into those hub centers where they're transloaded into containers.
Thank you. No,
Yes.
you know, in the last couple of years in Illinois and also our nearby neighbor of Iowa, we've had to stockpile corn and soybean, and our silos are overflowing. And in fact, our neighbors in the southeastern United States have been purchasing corn and soybean from Brazil because it is faster to move this agriculture product from Brazil to Georgia than it is to Atlanta, than it is to get it down to Mississippi. And part of this is because of the problems we have with our lock and dam system, the congestion with our inland waterways, and certainly it is an important part of the network. And I know that the rail, for example, have been very supportive of some of the bridge projects that we have been working on in order to have railroads come to support bridge projects over the Mississippi, because that's what the barge folks need in order to get freight. Truly speaks to the true intermodal nature of freight traffic in this country. And several of you have mentioned the need to lift the multimodal cap, Mr. Szabo, more than once in the freight program. Can you provide specific examples of why this is important? Why is it important to, and then I'll open it up to the group, but you want to start, Mr. Szabo?
I think, you know, the easy answer is because freight doesn't just use the highway system. And so, again, we're talking about a holistic approach. We're talking about an entire supply chain, you know, in this fluid system. And so there needs to be the flexibility to invest in the very best projects, and there shouldn't be any type of mode restriction. Where's the best return for the public? And wherever that best return is, that highest return, this is where the investments need to go.
Do you have a specific example of where this has been a
Well,
problem?
obviously, I mean, the big one for me is coming back to the CREATE program in Chicago, you know, where we're talking about rail infrastructure that impacts, you know, the national flow of goods through the Chicago hub, Amtrak, Metro commuter trains, emergency grade crossings, truck routes, you know, and all of these are constrained with the antiquated design that we face today. And so when the FAST Act provisions were being put together, we were trying to make sure that we would have a tool that would allow us to untangle this entire mess. And we were able to make it work with the cap, but it was very concerning and a little bit tenuous. And so for me, that's one great example. Certainly there are port issues. I think there are wiser minds at this table than me that can speak to that. But you know, it's got to be about this system.
Thank you. Mr. Hasakawa, Dr. Hasakawa, sorry.
Yes, Senator, I would agree 100% with Mr. Szabo. The Port of Long Beach, for instance, we're on a $4 billion capital investment program. We believe that that's what we must do to maintain our competitiveness going forward. In an era of bigger ships bringing more cargo, creating peaks and surges, and creating imbalances on the equipment side, it's critical that we continue to build out our infrastructure. $1 billion out of that $4 billion capital program is all devoted to on-dock rail. The advantage of on-dock rail is that it allows us to put a container on a train at the port, eliminating that short haul to an inland destination. It's safer, it's more reliable, it's cleaner, it's more cost-effective, and these are some of the projects, for instance, that would benefit if that cap was lifted.
Mr. Baker?
Right. I would simply say that with the point of the infra program being to solve our nation's freight challenges, which are numerous and many, and in a world of finite resources, to us it doesn't make sense to limit the program unnecessarily to one mode. And as I said in the testimony, I would say that's especially true in an era where these programs are no longer being funded 100% by by highway user fees. I believe we're at $140 billion and counting since 2008 of general fund money that has gone to support the Highway Trust Fund. So we believe that it's no longer appropriate to, we would say, sort of artificially limit the program to a single mode, or primarily to a single mode.
Thank you. You back.
Thank you, Senator Duckworth. I look forward to working with you on many of these important issues. It's a pleasure to have you as a ranking member. And I thank the witnesses today for your good testimony. The hearing record will remain open for 2 weeks, and during this time, senators are asked to submit any questions for the record. Upon receipt, the witnesses are requested to submit their written answers to the committee as soon as possible. And with that, the hearing is adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Mr. Szabo, the benefits of increasing investment in freight and intermodal infrastructure are well known, and we've already been discussing them a little bit today. These projects require large amounts of money and involve many public and private players. Federal funding for these projects is often necessary to get the projects off the ground. This is why I was a strong advocate for FAST Act's freight funding programs, and I've seen firsthand the positive impacts of freight and rail grants in Illinois. In your role at CMAP, how important is federal funding to getting these projects developed, and would these projects have moved forward without federal funding?
Yeah, having a reliable federal partner to participate in these projects is crucial. It's somewhat fundamental, particularly understanding that it's about interstate commerce, and that so many of the major projects, as I mentioned in my testimony, transcend states or local jurisdictions. They cross multiple modes, and so having a federal partner that is able to provide the leadership, provide funding is critical. You know, we were incredibly pleased with the FAST Act provisions and how that allowed several of our projects to move forward. But I would again come back to the concerns about the cap on non-highway projects. We believe in performance-based program management at CMAP, and this means ensuring that funding is completely flexible to allow us to invest in the very best projects possible that have the greatest benefits to the public. And when we put our plan together for the region, it looks out 30 years. And one of the points I make is that it doesn't make much sense today to focus on funding in modal silos when modes are changing and we don't even know what the modes are going to be 30 years from now. So whatever we do should be completely flexible.
Thank you. The Federal Highway Administration has reported that the largest increase in truck traffic will be where interstates intersect. 2 of the 25 most congested segments in the nation are in Chicago. Anybody who has driven the old Circle Interchange where Dan Ryan and Kennedy meets Eisenhower Expressway can tell you what that means. I've spent too many hours of my life there. To each of the panelists, what more should we do to focus attention on the worst, most congested areas in our nation? And how can we direct federal funds to focus on alleviating congestions at these particular freight bottlenecks? Should we start over here with Mr. Baker?
We believe that the merit-based competitive federal programs that you've instituted in the FAST Act, including CRISI and Infra, and then also Build, are well set up to address those problems well. We would support increases in funding for those, and certainly increases in flexibility for, in particular, for Infra and the state freight formula program. But essentially, a federal merit-based competitive program ought to be able to be leveraged to address the biggest bottlenecks and choke points, as those projects should rise to the top in a competitive benefit cost analysis.
Thank you, Dr. Szabo.
Senator, the illustration that you used to illustrate the state of our highway system, I think, is endemic of what we're seeing nationwide. As I noted a moment ago, the total cost to meet freight infrastructure needs is estimated at approximately $3.7 trillion. And as much as we like to focus on the first mile and the last mile, I think the focus of this panel here is to understand the entire intermodal freight network and how it fits together. And so from IANA's perspective, we believe that investing in freight infrastructure is critical, not just to our industry, our collective industries, but in order to move America forward. And the downstream impacts on the economy with regard to jobs, the multiplier effect that we see. So from our standpoint, we believe in fully funding freight provisions and opportunities for ports to apply for formula and competitive multimodal freight grants.
Thank you. Ms. Lim?
I absolutely agree. I mean, when we talked earlier in the testimony about how our ag shipments have to go to where the containers are. And so we'll bring in rail cars and we'll transload in these huge areas that you're talking about. They rise to the top. Chicago, Dallas, Atlanta, Memphis. All of these key inland hub areas are where this traffic is moving into. And so absolutely prioritizing these areas of congestion is very, very important.
You get the last 20 seconds, Mr. Szabo.
Yeah, I think it's already been said. Continue a merit-based approach. You know, the provisions in the FAST Act are an excellent place to start. Just lift that non-highway cap and make it completely mode neutral and ensure predictable funding.
Thank you. You're back.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you.